And we're back with another episode of Pure Perspectives. I'm with Willis again. Willis, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. We are talking about cash out refinances today.
hmm
Last number I looked at for 2024, there was over $1 trillion in credit card debt. So we have all these customers out there sitting on very low interest rates, right, in the threes.
hmm
They don't want to give that up,
Right.
understandable, but they
Yeah.
might have other debt, right? High interest
hmm
debt, credit card debt that's
hmm
extremely high interest rate. So what we wanted to talk about today is just some to clarify what a cash out refinance is, how
hmm
you can use it to kind of change your cash flow situation, right? If you're sitting on some credit card debt that's costing you a lot every month and you're sitting on a 3% interest mortgage, but you have a ton of equity in your house, like,
hmm
how can a cash out refinance change your cash flow? So why don't we just start with the basics, Willis? What is a
hmm
cash out refinance? How does it work?
So a cash out refinancing at on the base level is a loan where you take out the equity in your house. So it's kind of interesting. Like people talk about equity in their home,
Hmm.
but equity in their home is not, it's on a balance sheet. It's not something that's tangible unless you either one, sell your house or two, do a cash out loan. So a cash out loan is any loan that allows you access to that equity. Now there's three major types of cash out loans, and that's where people get a little confused and on what might be best for them. The first one's a traditional cash out loan. It pays off the original mortgage, and but the new mortgage is larger. And so you walk away from the closing table with the difference between your old mortgage and the new mortgage minus closing costs. The second type of loan is a second lien, or what they call a HE loan, a home equity loan. Um, and that is where you put a second mortgage on the property. So you keep that 3% interest rate that you wanted, or a 2% interest rate, or 5% interest rate, whatever it might be, and you take a second mortgage on your home. It has a second position to your primary mortgage, which means it is going to have higher interest rates. Those interest rates are going to be higher than what a cash out loan where you're just having one lien on your property is. So that's a second option. And then
Hmm.
the third option that you're hearing a lot about is a HELOC, which is a home equity line of credit. HELOC. And what that is it's kind of like you have your primary mortgage over here, and then you have a second lien on your property that has a maximum amount of cash that you can take out, but you only pay interest on what you take out. So kind of think of it as a credit card with a line of credit. If your max limit is $30 and you have taken out $5,000, then now you have $25,000 left on that line of credit until you pay it down. Those have a lot of benefit because you're not paying out more on the debt that you're not
Using.
taking out. Like
Yeah.
you're not using. So that's great, but they also have the highest interest rates. So when you're going to see which product is really best for you of the three products, you would think, well, I don't want to touch that 3% interest rate. But sometimes depending on how you're going to use the other two products, it might be better to do a cash out loan. And so you have to do an analysis of everything to kind of figure out what works best for you in your situation.
Got it. So the way to think about it is the last two, the home equity loan and the home equity line of credit, those are typically going to have higher interest rates. They're second liens
hmm
on the property. A
hmm
cash out refinance, just the example, let's just say you had $1 million mortgage and there's, $400,000 of equity.
hmm
There's $1 million remaining on the mortgage. You wanted to access $100,000. So you're basically taking out a new mortgage, right, at
hmm
a conventional, call it a conventional loan rate.
hmm
And you would have, they would give you that lump sum of the difference, right? So say you needed
Right.
$200,000, you would now have a mortgage of 1.2 million, right? And that
Right.
interest rate would be lower than a home equity loan or a home equity line of credit, but you are refinancing your first mortgage, so that rate goes
Right.
away. And I think the way to think about that is, okay, let's say I'm sitting on $30,000 of credit card debt at 20 some odd percent.
hmm
That's a hefty bill, right?
hmm
And when you're
Oh yeah.
leveraging the equity in your property at, call it, let's say 6.5%,
Mhm.
That's a big difference. While
Yeah.
it might feel painful to walk away from that low 3% or whatever on your interest rate, but from a cash flow perspective, you're now leveraging the equity on your property for, let's call it 6.5, whatever the rates
Hmm.
are, and you're wiping out that credit card debt. So
Hmm.
instead of paying that 20 some odd percent, you've now lumped everything into your 6%, 6.5%, 30-year fixed mortgage. Is that the
Right.
right way to think about it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, and you really have to go you have to do what's called a cash flow analysis. So, like you said, you might increase your total bill. I had a guy here in Texas, or a couple here in Texas. They had about $100,000 in credit card debt because they had started up a company and they were using credit cards to float them as they were getting
Yep.
the company started. So they got there. And we were able to take them from a 3.25 interest rate to a 7.75 interest rate because that's where the cash out rates were at the time.
Yep.
And so everyone thinks, oh, that's horrible. But because we paid off all those credit card debts that had a much higher interest rate in the 20s and 30%, their net cash flow gain was about $4,000 a month better to them. So $4,000 a month they had in their pocket, and that was just off of making minimum payments.
Yeah.
If just and they were making more than minimum payments because they were trying to pay these down, but not really making much progress. So that is a great option. Now, if the cash flow analysis part of it, so that makes sense, right? Everyone says that makes sense. Well, not all the time do you have to give up that 3% interest rate, but you have to look at it. So a he um, a he loan is probably when you're trying to go for cash flow and you need a large sum of money, it's probably second best option in most
Hmm.
cases. And depending on how you qualify, because there can be a wide range of rates for a HE loan based on credit score, based on your cumulative loan to value between your primary mortgage and your second mortgage. So you can get, depending on if you don't go very high on your loan to value and you have a really high credit score, you could get a very competitive rate for your second mortgage. So that's going in those cases, it might be better to not do a cash out refinance, traditional cash out refinance, but keep your mortgage and have maybe a 7 or 8% HE loan
Hmm.
and take out a large sum of money. The third option, the HELOC, is a great option if you want to have access to your equity, but you don't need it right now. Right?
Yep.
if
Makes
you're
sense.
if you're if you're trying to take out money to put in a pool, to renovate your home, to um, pay off a lot of credit card debt, your two best options for cash flow are either a traditional cash out loan or a HE loan, the second mortgage on your property, because their interest rates are much lower than a HELOC. But if you don't need all of the money up front, maybe you only need $10,000, but you want a HELOC of $200,000 in case something happens
Yep.
in the next year
Emergency
and you
funds.
need
Yep.
access. Yeah, you want your emergency money. Then a HELOC is a great option because you're only paying that 10, 11% interest rate or 8 or 9% interest rate. It varies. You're only paying that on the amount of money that you have taken out. But if you need $200,000 right now, you're better off going with a HE loan or a traditional cash out loan because your cash flow will be much better than taking on a HELOC and maxing out that HELOC. So,
Got it. Yeah, I think that helps explain it. I think and the cash flow analysis process.
mm,
You work with your loan officer. They're more than happy to do that. I'm happy to sit
mhm,
down with my customers and go through, like, let's understand your debt, your liabilities, where
mhm.
your outgoing cash is going, what you're sitting on with your current mortgage, how you would adjust that to improve your cash flow. I think the example you mentioned about putting $4,000 a month in your pocket, I mean, that's a game changer, right? Yeah, you are changing your interest rate, but you're changing your cash flow situation in a big way.
Well, here's a cool thing. If the person is used to making that extra $4,000 a month in payments every single month and they're comfortable with
Yep.
that, you can also show them if you take that $4,000 and apply it to principal every single month,
Yep.
you'll actually pay off your loan in about 15. In this case, they were going to pay off their loan in 15 years and be completely debt free.
Yeah. So you got to factor in the total interest payments then, right? It's
Right.
like, yeah,
And
the
so,
6% or whatever looks bad, but if you're comfortable, paying that amount every month, put it on the mortgage, see what you end up paying at the end. It
yeah,
could work out in your
pay,
favor.
yeah, you pay off the mortgage quicker. And even though you went up in interest rate because you paid it off so much faster, you save hundreds of
Yep.
thousands of dollars over the life of the loan in interest. This is specifically for people that are living in their forever home.
Yep.
Somebody that knows this is my home and I want to retire here. This is where I want my grandkids to come and see me. Paying off that mortgage, getting that out of the way so you're not paying interest is a huge savings for you in the long run. If you're going to sell the house, you're just putting money back into the equity of the house that you can't access until you do another cash out loan.
Yep.
So, talk to a financial advisor on that, specifically on your options of how to leverage that. But that, you know, I would definitely think great idea for somebody forever home. If you might move in 7 years, there might be better options to do with that $4,000. Put it
Yep.
into a Roth IRA. But I'm not a financial advisor, so don't talk to me about those.
Yeah. Don't go to Willis for that information. Awesome. Well, I think that covers it, everybody. I think hopefully this answers questions about what the difference is between a cash out refinance, a home equity loan, a home equity line of credit. We talked about the freeze-in effect. Everybody's sitting on those low interest rates, where they're also sitting on credit card debt. Talk to your loan officer, have them do the cash flow analysis. Make sure you understand what your options are, and what, if you're willing to make that extra payment, what that means at the end of the loan. So I think very valuable information, Willis. Thanks again for your time. We will get this out to you guys ASAP. Everybody have a great weekend.